A first alert investigation in Wrightstown. Action 2 News obtains public records showing the school district's former interim superintendent released classified information.
Saari resigned August 2nd after being placed on administrative leave in May. Emily Byer joining us live in Wrightstown this morning. Emily, you've been digging through those records.
Yeah, good morning, Emerson and Tammy. Yeah, at the time, the Wrightstown School Board didn't explain what concerns led to Ron Saari's leave from the district, but a closer look into the investigation into his performance shows mishandling of public records. 42 incidents were referenced in those documents under factual findings. Under the handling of public records request, it states that shortly after Saari was hired, the district received a public records request for the previous superintendent, Andy Space's personal file. The district's legal team helped to fill that request, including the redaction of certain confidential information, which is exempt under Wisconsin's public records law. Around February 7th, the district received a second request for Space's file. On February 12th, Saari fulfilled that request by making a copy of the complete personal file without any redactions. We've confirmed the information that was released included Space's social security number along with his personal banking information. Saari followed up with the individual who requested the file, asking them to delete the confidential information. That person then stating in writing that they did delete the confidential information, but there was no other independent verification. I reached out to Saari on social media for a comment or statement. I am in contact with him. I'm awaiting a statement this morning. We were, however, able to make contact with the school board president.
I think, I do wish Ron the best in his future endeavors. I think it just was not a position or a good fit at the time, and we both recognize that, and I think we're in a good spot in moving forward.
As for the search for the next permanent superintendent, the school board tells me they will begin looking into candidates in the beginning of next year. We'll send it back to you.